welcome to the BNP Boxing Podcast, Boxing Now Podcast. That is, I am that dude named Dave, and to my left, who's my right hand man, is Jorge here. What's going on again, man?
We're really gonna have this conversation.
Yes, we are.
We're really gonna have this dumb conversation here. All right, go ahead.
Why does it got to be dumb? What? When I bring information to you, why does it got to be dumb?
It's not always dumb. Kick us off. Dave, nice to see you, buddy.
Nice to see you too. But before we get started here, Jorge, I want to tell everybody to click on like and subscribe and click on the bell notification so that they get new episodes. All right.
Yeah, no, I want that too.
Okay. Seriously, like, subscribe, bell notification for YouTube, Spotify, click on follow. On the Zingo app 250, click on the heart so that you can follow us on there. All right, now we got that out the way so people know where to find us. Like and subscribe. All right, people, go ahead.
Yeah, hit the like, folks.
Okay, so we're doing another 0.5 episode. So if you guys are wondering here, yeah, we're doing these little black and white. We're still in Mike Tyson's thunder because he don't do shows in black and white no more.
Yeah, we taking it.
Yeah, so we're dropping, if time permits, people, we're dropping 2 shows a week. The first one you see is in color. We do that regularly, but this one here, hey, this is our show. We having fun with it. So we might do it in black and white. It might be in pink. It might be in yellow.
No, I'm thinking infrared if we can. If we can.
Fuchsia, you know, I mean, yo, we're gonna be out there.
No, I like infrared. Just to see the blood boil of red when you get mad.
I mean, it might look like a Prince video one day.
Purple rain.
Purple rain. Yeah, so yeah, that's why you see it in black and white. Nothing wrong with your screen, folks. I'm just having fun with my cameras right now.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So we're recording this here because you were mad at me for wanting to talk about.
I'm not mad at you.
Yes, you are. You raised your voice just now. You went, hey, you went to the higher octave there.
No, I did not go like that octave.
Yeah.
I just want to get there. I get there, my friend.
All right. So we're talking about Andre Ward. A lot of Andre Ward. Not a lot. It's a little smoldering smoke golden run right now. He is not fighting right now. But over the last few years, it's been a little sprinkle a little something here. See we get a little traction here. Let's see.
Andre Ward, what he's doing, he's at the river. He's got the nice water, knee-high boots and stuff, and he's just having a good time. He's retiring, but every once in a while, he wants to throw a little something on the lure out there and just say, you know what, let's see what bites here. Let's see what bites out there.
He wants to be on this Roy Jones.
He's on his Roy Jones-ish type shit.
You know, but. Let me see here. Let me pull it up here. So, since 2017, since he's retired, undefeated, 32-0, former Olympian, hasn't lost a fight since he was 14 years old. Seems like whenever he talks, he can do no wrong. He's like the poster child of he's perfect. He's SOG, son of God.
He's the Mr. Perfect of the boxing world right now.
If Mr. Perfect wasn't an asshole. Because Mr. Perfect was an asshole.
Mr. Perfect was an asshole. You're right. And just the idea of Andre Ward and some yellow curls is kind of funny.
I find that kind of racist. No, I'm just playing with you, man. You're going to try to put Andre Ward in some blonde curls, man. I'd have slapped the shit out of you.
Have you seen that movie Blades of Glory?
Yes, I have.
You know what I'm going with, my friend. How you do that to that poor boy in the cover with the blonde locks?
So... reason why we're recording this here, because Andre Ward has been talking, and I'll get straight to it. The talk is him fighting either Canelo Alvarez or Anthony Joshua. Now, boxers who retire always talk about coming back, and sometimes they do. Sometimes guys retire because of injury, and they're forced to. And then after a year or so, they're healthy, and then they get that itch, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on, baby, the itch is coming back. You know,
he's got an itch for a different reason, but I don't think it's the fight. Though. I think he's fighting for the price.
Yeah. So we've heard the talk about him. It's always been talk about him and Anthony Joshua since he retired. He's always thought about big game hunting, even during the Sergey Kovalev, rematch. He was talking about Anthony Joshua in 2017.
Yes.
Like he was like, you would really go to heavyweight, and he was like, Roy Jones did it. And then everybody was like, well, Anthony Joshua is like 250 pounds. And he's like
6'5". Let's not forget that 6'5".
And he's like 6'1", 6'2". So he'd be getting up like, 3 to 4 inches in height. And depending on the situation, he'll probably bulk up to what, probably like 200 to 210.
I say 205 is probably the weight he gets. Just so here's the part that struggle with this part of the conversation.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
I get what Ward's doing, and I don't have a problem with what he's trying to do because Roy Jones did the same thing as well. Right? So there's current precedent that says, okay, there's nothing wrong with trying to go after a heavyweight title and stuff. Now, granted, Roy Jones went against Andy Ruiz. Was it? Andy Ruiz. It's John Ruiz.
John Ruiz.
John Ruiz, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And Ruiz at the time was about the same height as Roy Jones, who just happened to look a lot stockier.
It was the perfect storm for Roy Jones.
Exactly. The perfect heavyweight fighter.
They're about the same height, but he was getting about 30 or 40 pounds. But Ruiz could not move.
Exactly.
He had cement in his feet. His hand speed was not fast. So I think that if anybody could took a heavyweight punch, and if you was at Roy Jones' stature, you had a chance to beat John Ruiz.
Exactly.
Use your combinations, in and out, use distance, pop shot, in and out, keep distance, keep him at bay, boom.
And do it for 12 rounds, exactly.
Land 7 shots, you win the round.
Be conditioned for 12 rounds. You're training for a 12-round heavyweight fight, and you're coming in at the weight that you think you're comfortable fighting for 12 rounds at the style that you want to fight. Right? Granted, and that was the perfect storm for him. Andre Ward, Anthony Joshua, or anybody at this point at heavyweight, those two guys, him and Tyson Fury, these guys are 6 foot tall, 6'5", 6'7", with a long reach to go with it. There's not many at heavyweight. Joshua's got a lot going against him with some of the fighters he's going against. Against Fury, he's an underdog. Against Wilder, he might even be an underdog.
Let's just put it out there. He's never going to speak Fury's name.
Nope.
At heavyweight. So I understand why you said that. That will never come out of his mouth.
Exactly.
He would be giving up 9 inches and probably at 80 pounds. And I don't think that Bob Arum would even put that fight on. He would talk trash on that, like Bob Arum classic style, before he even got to them sitting down for even any kind of contract talk.
I don't even think Arum would. I think Fury would. Fury would do all the talking.
I don't think Fury would take the fight. He'd be like, look here, I love Andre Ward, but he's too small for me, champ.
Exactly. He'll give his respects, and after that,
I respect him as an Olympian and a former champion.
But you're too small for me, boy.
But I'm Fury. And you know what, though? If Deontay Wilder couldn't take this punch, who is Andre Ward?
Exactly. Exactly. So, but I think when it comes to Anthony Joshua, we know at the heavyweight division, it's basically Fury and Wilder still.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, they're going to be 2 tough fights for Joshua. This is the one fight where I would say Joshua would be the favorite. He'd be I think he'd be a huge favorite against Andre Ward. And I'm sorry, to me, we've talked about this, but before earlier today, I said, look, I felt for that fight, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, when it happened, right? That was probably like one of the first of many fights that you knew it's a big mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not falling for that crap anymore, man. I'm sorry, Ward. Sorry, Andre. Love you, buddy. Love you, but I can't envision you and Joshua getting in the same ring.
But
you and Canelo, yes.
See, all it takes is someone like Inception. All it takes is a thought to get in your brain.
You keep referring to Inception, man.
Yes. You know why? Because the episode of South Park.
No. Actually, what's funny? I remember more about that movie because of the South Park episode than the actual movie itself. To the point where I remember my brother, my late brother, God bless him, but he'd bring up that movie and I go right to some of the music themes in South Park.
I bring up Inception because the first thing come my head is South Park, and that was a classic episode. So if you ever have a chance, watch that on South Park. But I bring up Inception because the worst virus is a thought. They say because once it's in your brain, you can't get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? If I put in your head Anthony Joshua against Andre Ward, that's the thought now. You're not getting rid of it. You may do other things, but eventually that thought will come back. You'll be like, God damn it, Dave brought that thought to my head. It's a fucking virus. And then 2 weeks later, when you see Andre Ward talking, he's talking about Anthony Joshua fighting Tyson Fury, it's going to come right back to again. Damn it, Dave said that about this Andre Ward fight. So I bring that up because he has been doing this the last few years. He's 37 years old, says he's happily retired, makes a 7-figure deal at ESPN, commentating, doing Max on Boxing every now and then, living a good life. But he's been a boxer his entire life. And the Anthony Joshua fight couldn't net him anywhere from 30 to 50 million easily. ESPN, DAZN, Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people, Anthony Joshua, the big Adonis superstar in the UK who they love and adore. He is the superstar that in Britain that they built who they love. Dude is chiseled, he got all the the commercials and the women love him. He's out here living his best life, just getting every girl out there in the game right now. They love him out there. Sure. And then you add Andre Ward, the American, gold medalist, undefeated, hasn't lost since a shorty, retired, making his comeback. It's classic Rocky Balboa movie.
I don't know.
I saying classic, but I mean like classic as far as the theme.
I don't even know if it's necessarily that because I don't necessarily see either one being Carl Weathers. None of them are going to be Carl Weathers that way. I mean, none of them can play Apollo that way.
Well, that's why Michael B. Jordan's in the game now. He's playing his son now.
No. I go old school in that, man. No. Carl Weathers, man, that was...
I'm so mad they killed him off. They could have him in a coma or something in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
I know that sidebar, but they didn't have to kill him.
Yeah,
man.
Shout out to Carl Weathers, man, on Mandalorian, man. That guy's a great actor.
I need to binge Mandalorian, finish that up here. But if he dies, he dies.
He dies.
But I see the theme as Rocky because you have the come out of retirement, like in Rocky V, he was chilling, and Tommy Gun. Yeah, rest in peace, Tommy Morrison.
That'll be more to that, but that's the bad Rocky.
Yeah, that one shouldn't count, right?
That shouldn't count. There's a couple of Rockies I can think that didn't count.
Nah,
I think after the first two.
Well, Rocky. Rocky 3 is the best one. To me, I love Rocky 3.
Two by a mile, man.
Nah, Mr. T. You know why? When he was going on Adrian, you want a real man? Like he disrespected Rocky so bad with that real man going at Adrian. I'm sorry, I just love Mr. T just be disrespectful like that.
No, two because once he got to 3, the gratuitous 80s music when they're going up and down the beach running there. I don't know.
I just seen Rocky get his ass. Well, hold on here. Sorry about that, people. Let me get back on here.
Get back on track, Andre Ward, man.
But honestly, if we saw Andre Ward and Anthony Joshua happen, and it could only happen. There's so many ifs here. If Anthony Joshua beats Tyson Fury, who we talked about, that fight is slowly building up here for the undisputed heavyweight title. Can you also imagine too, like, I'm just adding all this extra stuff here. Like if you think, let's say the fight happened that Anthony Joshua pulls the upset against Tyson Fury, because we believe, even though the fight's no date yet, Fury is the favorite.
Yeah.
So let's say Anthony Joshua pulls this out and he's now the undisputed heavyweight champion. And here's Andre Ward.
That's a lot of tainted meat for that man to win that fight. I'm sorry.
That's a lot of tainted meat. But you can't tell me between DAZN, Eddie Hearn, and ESPN how much they would blow this up out the water.
Well, that's the thing. That's the only chance for Ward at this point is a colossal upset of Tyson Fury. I think Ward's best chance to fight Joshua actually was probably after the second Andy Ruiz fight. Actually, it wouldn't have surprised me that if Joshua had beat Andy Ruiz instead of losing to him at the time, that fight wouldn't have happened first prior to fighting Tyson Fury. And I think that might have been, I will say this, it might have been interesting enough. It might have been interesting enough and maybe still early enough in Andre's current boxing / commentating career, right? He still would have been maybe like 35, 36. I'll say this, right? Before in our pre-meeting, I said I would not give $1 to watch that Ward Joshua fight. If Ward Joshua had fought before, if he had lost Andy Ruiz and that was like the next fight that was available, and I know it's a money grab, I might have been entertaining myself to watch that fight. Why? Because I would have gone to Wembley Stadium. Mm-hmm. I would have gone with you to watch that fight. I think that fight would have been nice to go watch over there. At this point, though, I think because of the loss to Ruiz and then having to get the belt back against Ruiz again, you lost years. You lost a little bit of time.
Yeah,
and I think Andre's. I don't think Andre's not in bad shape. I'm sure he's keeping himself in shape. I just think he probably lost time to make healthy heavyweight shape and get in that true heavyweight form. Like I would feel comfortable if I knew he was already training for that heavyweight title now. But I think the last time we saw him on ringside and stuff, I mean, in a match, he still looks like a light heavyweight to me. Still like 175, maybe 180 he's walking around in. I mean, that to put on a 25 pounds and feel like you're the favorite against Joshua, I'm sorry. That's a tough one for me to swallow. and I'm not going to give up any kind of money on watching a mismatch. And it literally will be a mismatch. It's one thing to have a weight advantage. He was trying to fight Fury, which will never happen. But Joshua will be a weight advantage and a height advantage. Mm-hmm. And I probably do need a reach advantage. So at this point, what do you have going for you going against Joshua? I'm watching a mismatch. And mismatch, and probably for two guys that I believe, according to me, they probably know each other, they probably treat it like an exhibition match. To me, I don't think any one of them is trying to go for a knockout. I think that's one of those 12 rounds fights that it's just going to annoy me every round it gets closer to the 12th and be like, okay, this is a waste of money.
I'll give you a little backdrop here before we add Canelo into this here.
Sure.
So this is, if you look at the Anthony Joshua fight as an option, it's a DTBD, Dare to Be Great.
That's what it is. It's a dare to be great, but to me, the dare to be great would be if he's actually trying to go for a knockout. I think I
wouldn't say knockout because he's not a knockout artist. He's only had 16 KOs and his 32 wins in his career. So for him, that's not even the case. He's only had 16 KOs in his entire career. Been professional since 2004 and falls to 2017 and only 16 KOs. So
there aren't many precedents where in boxing history where you see a lot of guys make it from middleweight, maybe get to light heavyweight, and then they actually go up to heavyweight. Right? And then not even long campaigns at heavyweight. It's usually for one belt and then come back out. And the only recent one is Roy Jones.
I think it was Bob Fitzsimmons and Roy Jones are only two people who've gone from middleweight to heavyweight and won titles. You won title at 160 and then won at heavyweight. I think it's Bob Fitzsimmons and Roy Jones. And Bob Fitzsimmons, we're talking like the freaking 1940s.
Exactly. 50s. So to me, it's you have to take it for what it is, guys. It's a gimmick fight. And I have to call it a gimmick fight because it's not realistically going to be competitive from my point of view, right? I mean, and Andre's fighting at heavyweight. You're not campaigning at heavyweight. No, it's just a money grab one time. I almost can't even call it a dare to be great. It's a money grab.
It is a dare to be great.
It's a gimmick fight.
I say dare to be great because anybody who has the balls to sit in the ring with a heavyweight and you're not a heavyweight, you're daring to be great because no one wants to get hit in the face by someone who's 50 pounds heavier.
I can see that
because every weight division, you're fighting in that weight class, right? But like, of course, people gain weight overnight, but you're fighting a guy who weighs the same amount. He's typically the same size you, barring, the height advantage, right? When you get the heavyweight, once you get past 200 pounds, it don't matter. So it can be a money grab and dare to be great at the same time because no one is trying to get hit by someone 50 pounds heavier unless you know that you're trying to be great and you can have a chance. Now, it could be delusional. You think you can win, but in his mind, he thinks he can win.
I think the reason I give Andre Ward not that dare to be great scenario is because if he was an active fighter and say he's been doing more active fighting than commentating, right? Say he had a stint or two at cruiserweight. You're showing me the progression of daring to be great because you're making all the right steps necessarily to get to heavyweight, right? For Roy Jones at the time, he was still undefeated. That was a dare to be great moment. I'll agree with you there. Because that's basically going
technically not undefeated. He
was that the disqualification.
Yeah.
Okay, they're right against
just in case someone
against Griffin, right?
Yeah, just in case someone wanted to fact check.
You're right.
He wasn't beat the time, but he was disqualified.
You're disqualified.
If you want to get technical.
Exactly.
So you're right. I just want to make sure no one doesn't.
Yes, it was against Griffin. It was a disqualification,
and
but
he came back and murdered him in 90 seconds.
Exactly. But to that point, undefeated.
Yeah.
Regardless of the disqualification, he was still undefeated.
Right.
That was a dare to be great moment. I completely agree with you. And at that point, I didn't even take it as a gimmick fight because he was an active fighter who said, you know what, I can go there and come back and still campaign at super middleweight, light heavyweight. And he was doing all that. That's dare to be great. Andre Ward, you've been commentating for a couple of years now. Your dare to be great fights were against Kovalev. And those were great fights, those two fights. Mm-hmm. Now to do that, to kind of like sprinkle it out there and stuff, I can't call it dare to be great. It's a true money grab. If you had shown me that you were still fighting, say you were still defending a title light heavyweight, campaigning a little bit at cruiserweight, and then deciding to fight Joshua, that's different. Then I'm giving you all respect. Dare to be great. I'm with you the whole way. I'd follow you the whole way, and completely agree with what you're trying to do. I can't buy this one.
I'm going to give some backdrop, and I'm going to counter what you're going to say here. So I think this fight may have happened if Ward wasn't really injured the way he was. So a little backdrop here. People don't know that he actually filed a claim. Well, he actually bought lot of athletes, multimedia athletes go to Lloyd's of London to buy claims for insurance so that, if you get hurt, you can still get paid out.
Mhm.
You see this happen with basketball players or football players in the draft. They go ahead and buy these big time life insurance policies, whatever the case may be, and they mature if you don't get drafted, if you get hurt. And if you get drafted, the only thing you're out is just paying the fee, the coverage of that until you got drafted. So Andre Ward got this in policy for the Sergey Kovalev fight. And then after the Sergey Kovalev fight, he then retired. And then roughly around like March of 2018 is when he filed this claim. So by him filing this claim, he couldn't fight anymore because he couldn't get the claim or had to pay the money back. So of course, with that, there's a certain amount of time that you have to be out before that the insurance company can't come back at you for this money.
Sure.
So he was legitimately hurt. He filed a claim and that forced him to retire. But before that was all happening, he was talking about Anthony Joshua back then in 2017. He was actually talking about it in the promotion of the Sergey Kovalev rematch.
Yes.
So this is not like new stuff, like you're saying, like, oh, like, why would he do this? Like I mentioned, Dare to Be Great, but no, he's not an active fighter. And like, this is not something that just came out of a whim like Ryan Garcia. Like Ryan Garcia just pulled Manny Pacquiao out of nowhere after the Mike Tyson podcast. And now here we are now, right? Within like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This has been 4+ years, but he had to retire because that claim and, all those injuries, all these years fighting. ESPN gig came. Now he was already commentating on HBO, then went to ESPN, 7-figure deal. So you look at it's like, yo, why do I need to get punched in the face? I got this injury. So he filed the claim. He retired. Now we're several years removed now. I think the fact that it's being talked up now, the fact that claim for that policy is in the clear now, because otherwise he'll have to pay that back. Now, I don't know how much he got paid from the policy, but that was part of the play why he just literally walked away on top of the game. Because like you were mentioning, there were other fights that could have been involved for him, and he just said, I'm good.
Sure.
So I wanted to level set that to know that the Joshua fight was a possibility if he didn't have this injury claim.
Sure.
And then the policy came about and he retired, and of course the full-time commentating gig from HBO to ESPN. Wanted to level set that here.
Sure.
So I say, yes, it's a cash grab. Of course. Something that big. I mean, big fights are cash grabs. It don't matter if it's a legit fight or a bogus fight. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather was a cash grab. Even though it was too late, it was a legit fight. They made $4 billion off that fight, 4 million pay-per-view buys, whatever it was, in $1 billion of revenue. It's not the same, but I can make the same parallel between Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Now I know that Hagler was not a heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
Hagler was a world-beating monster at middleweight.
Sure.
And how many years was Ray Leonard out of the ring? Like 5-6 years. Retired with a detached retina and came back. I don't think he had a tune-up fight. He went right to Hagler. And I love Sugar Ray. I really feel that Hagler won the fight, but I am not mad at anybody who's a Sugar Ray Leonard fan who goes up and down saying Leonard, won the fight. I just, 30 seconds and, just go ahead into fury and sway the judges. Hey, more power to Sugar Ray for pulling that game plan. It worked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's a similar scenario. Someone who's been out for years wants to fight the bad man who everybody thinks is going to kill him. And he uses speed, his footwork, his boxing IQ to fight 15 freaking rounds. Now I know it's different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
He's given up 50 pounds. He's been out of the ring for like 4 years. But I'm saying that there's similarities for someone being out of the ring that long and fighting a guy who everybody thinks who should beat the crap out of you, and you should be shitting 6 feet under when this fight's over. And the same thing with Manny Pacquiao and Oscar De La Hoya. When that was first brought up by HBO, it wasn't Lampley, it was a Harold Letterman. He was like, I know Manny Pacquiao fights at 135, and I know that Oscar fights at 154. Is there a way for them to come in the middle? And we all thought when that fight happened that Manny was going to get murdered. And what happened? Manny murdered Oscar. So everything you're saying is right. I'm saying that it's a possibility. Everything you're saying is, I can make an example. I just said that can actually show that, this could be a legit fight, even though looks like a complete mismatch, because boxing has showcased many mismatches. And on the right night, we've seen stars show up. Andre Ward is a star. So it's not like someone who's like like we watching, what was the fight that like Caleb Truax
Mhm.
last week.
Yeah.
You know, if that happened, we're like, oh, come on, man. But when we talk about superstars, hey man, anything can happen. The fact he's talking it up, you know, it makes me want to say, hey, let's talk about it.
Yeah, no. I look, I think every example you come up with, they are not the classic example for this scenario, right? The one with Hagler and Leonard there, not at heavyweight. I can see the inactivity comparison. The inactivity comparison.
Injury, the fact that you have a detached retina and you want to fight again. I know he healed it, but then 6 years removed too.
Yeah, no. So the inactivity and the injury, not that big of a difference weight wise and stuff. So that was the reason why that fight happened the way it did. The reason the Pacquiao De La Hoya fight, again, activity was there for one fighter at least. Maybe not De La Hoya. I'm with you on that part, right?
And he ain't fought a welterweight in 8 years. So he went. So of course that was a mismatch for him, but he went down to a weight that he ain't fought in almost a decade. And then Manny went up 2 weight classes to a weight he never fought at before.
They both
to the point where that I started to cut you off. I never forget this. Roach had him on a plan that he had to add an additional 2,000 calories to his diet to keep Manny Pacquiao at 140.
Yeah, you burn him that fast.
Yeah. So I'm saying like it may not be the exact scenario, but I can point to examples similar. It may not be 100%, but I can get close to 75, 80% of that example.
No, and those examples are all great examples, but those examples at the end of the day, they're money grabs are one, and we got to that point. But but the gimmick fights for the most part, to me, the Pacquiao De La Hoya fight is the last gimmick fight I think I'm ever going to pay for. And that was the only one that was paid, and I said that's the last time I'm gonna fall for something that not competitive. It was not a competitive fight, and you know it was garbage. The best comparison there in terms of competitiveness was Leonard Hagler. That's about it. Everything else outside of that, it wasn't competitive even for Roy Jones waiting for Ruiz, because he found the right guy, right heavyweight at the right time with the right style that would guarantee that he wouldn't be taking a bunch of damage from a heavyweight and stuff. And Andre Ward, like I said, love the fighter. And all injury aside, if he was going to campaign, if he was going to actually go for this heavyweight, I actually wish he would start with Canelo first. Take a shot at cruiserweight, not a title, but get a shot at cruiserweight and get us right into the Joshua fight. So if he does a 3-fight deal that gets us from Canelo to a cruiserweight fight to a heavyweight fight, by that time, I'm fine. I'm good with that. I'll pay for it, because at least you've shown me that you've done the activity to get me there. You're showing some inactivity. You're giving me a lot more disadvantages for me to want to watch that fight. Believe me, I want Ward. If Ward fights Joshua, I want it to be competitive. So make me believe it's going to be competitive.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, let's get to the other point here.
Sure.
The Canelo aspect of it. That could be a big fight as well.
That'd be a wonderful fight.
Now, I know this would interest you more, because this is more along those same lines now that they're in the same weight.
Yep.
Like Canelo's fighting at 168.
Can go to 175 at any point he wants for a fight.
Just fought at 175 last December, literally about 12 months ago, 14 months ago, against Sergey Kovalev. So that's only 7 pounds. Andre Ward was at super middleweight for most of his career before he went to the light heavyweight, which was to fight Sergey Kovalev when he had those 2 fights, became the man at 175 before he retired. So seeing Andre Ward now, he's in great shape. We mentioned that. Like, he stays working out, so we know that he's probably, if he went to a full training camp, he could fight at 168 or 175.
Yeah.
I would think that it'll probably be 175, because at his age, he couldn't boy down to 168 at the end of his career.
He'd be draining himself, and he definitely would be at a disadvantage against Canelo at that fight.
So a fight at 175 against Canelo, that would, now look at the tail of the tape here. Ward is like 6'1", close 6'2". Canelo's 5'8". So Canelo's already given up 5 inches. Ward has the longer reach.
Yep.
Ward is the bigger man, technically. Start off at 168. Canelo started at welterweight. We said that several episodes ago.
Yep.
But Canelo's the active fighter.
Yep.
Canelo's in his prime, But Andre Ward is a great boxer.
Yep.
Not power, like I said.
Great boxer that can knock you out if he hits you with the right punch and wears you down.
And let me add, too, that he is somebody that Canelo never fought that, in a sense, Andre Ward is dirty. When he fights, It's like I said, Andre Ward can do no wrong. We talking about he's SOG, son of God. But when you put him in the ring, he does. He comes from that Bernard Hopkins school. When he lock it in and he'll grab your arm and lock it in, and then you try to, or he'll throw some illegal blows here and there. He'll lock in and he will do things to test you out mentally to see if you're gonna crack. And most guys do crack, like Sergey Kovalev in that fight, though. If he will do little rabbit punches, he do the little things that Hopkins does that gets you under your skin that you think he's a good guy. No, when he's in the ring, he's dirty and he's nasty too.
Andre Ward this is what I love about Andre Ward. He's the only fighter that I've ever heard during commentary, not his commentary, but fight commentary, that refers to his punches as knifing through you. And I remember that for 2 years.
He said that.
So if you watch the first Kovalev fight, watch the second Kovalev fight, and you'll understand what I'm saying.
I was at the fights, that's why I didn't know that.
So Kovalev, especially in the first fight,
okay,
especially the second half of that fight, when Kovalev would throw a long jab or a straight cross, Andre Ward would come in with a punch at an angle that would look like he's knifing you. And when I mean knifing you, you're exposing when you say you're throwing your right cross, you're exposing the pit area, the top parts of your rib cage and stuff. Mm-hmm. Those can be soft spots.
Yeah.
So when he threw the punch, it came quick, and sometimes you never saw it, but he hit you in the body, knifing you at your underarms, basically. Mm-hmm. And I don't care, after about 15, 20 of those punches, that shit hurts.
Yeah.
That shit's going to hurt. You're not going to make you want to throw a jab anymore. It makes you don't want to throw a cross anymore. He is knifing you at the point of attack. So you might get him, you might miss him, but he's going to hit you for sure by knifing you in that spot.
And add that he likes to go to the body too. So
yes.
I never heard that analogy, but that is point on. But you add that analogy, then you add the fact that just like Canelo, he likes to go to the body and warm you up there. That's a recipe.
It's surgical. It's very surgical what he's doing with those punches, those counters. He's doing counters at your body. Mm-hmm. Those come back to get you at the end. I mean, don't get me wrong, folks. Look, the fight was a draw, right, with Kovalev, right? Or no, Ward won the fight. Ward ended up winning the fight.
The first fight, I was actually there, and the irony is that everybody in the audience thought that Ward lost, and I felt Ward lost, but I said, "Look, people, we in Vegas, and Ward's going to win because of the judges."
Yeah, Kovalev won the first fight.
Yes,
but not by much.
No, not by much.
Not by much because the second half,
I felt the knockdown should have been enough, but
mm-hmm.
But hey. He got the W, then they came back for the rematch. And in that rematch, we saw Ward be dirty. He worked the body, peppered him up. Kovalev was discombobulated, was complaining to the ref because he didn't like it. That's why I was saying that, can you handle it? And once we saw Kovalev complain, it was over. And then by the time the 7th round came and he had mustered him up, gotten frustrated, and he landed that one shot to the head, I believe it was a right hook. Normally that right hook, I said, Ward doesn't have much power, but he had already warmed him up, like you said, like you mentioned that knifing analogy. So by the time the 7th round came, he was just done. It was just a matter of placing the right shots. And once he landed that right hook, that was it.
Yeah.
It was over for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best compliment I can give Ward. That commentary was dead on how he attacked. And I've never heard a fighter described in that way. So I'm a firm believer in Andre Ward's boxing ability and the ability to win a fight, but I don't want, if he's in my overall beef with him and a Joshua conversation is, I don't want to see Ward not at 100%. I want Ward to be there. Like, I want to see something competitive.
I think he's healthy now. The fact that, like I said, boxing is a jacked up sport. Like, these guys are always hurt. You always hear, like, I'm healthy in the interviews. Like, no, there is not one fighter that's healthy going to a fight unless you take.
You're looking to survive. You're looking to survive at best from the fight.
Unless you take enough time off. Like we were talking earlier, like the analogy I was bringing up, how Floyd retired in 2009. Everybody thought he was running and ducking. No, he kept fucking his hands up so much, and he kept doing this hand treatment with plaster and these porcelain treatments that it got to the point like if he kept fighting, he wouldn't be able to fight till he's fighting no more. So he literally take 2 years off to let his hands, recover before he can come back into the ring again. So we see guys who take the time off like that and come back good. Like you talk about healthy. I think 4 years now, I think his body's completely healed. The thing is going to be muscle memory. That doesn't go away, but then you got to remember how much muscle memory is left.
Yeah.
You're going to have there. He's a boxer. Stuff is going to come natural. But if you don't do something for 4 years, regularly. Like we know he trains. You know he's hitting the bag at home. You know he probably has a gym in Oakland that he attends. He probably has his own gym, you know, or works with other young fighters. But if you're not getting the ring rust off like you're actually fighting somebody, that's when I can see where you're talking about there.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And what I'm saying about Ward, say versus Joshua, would be no different for conversation between Ward versus Canelo. I would want Ward to be 100% against Canelo because he already has all the advantages there. The only thing he doesn't have is activity and muscle memory, possibly. But I would want him to be 100% because at the end of the day, if I'm going to pay to watch the fight, I'm wanting to watch the best fight the best.
Is it me or this will be more of a 50-50 fight now? Because I'm looking at Canelo at his physical peak and he is at the weight that he's most comfortable with. If this fight would happen a few years ago when, of course, we know that Ward had these injuries, but let's say if he took 7 to 8 months off, chilled, and then they signed a fight, but he don't fight for a year, I would say that Ward would be heavy favorite against Canelo at 168 or 175 a few years ago. I'm looking at now because of the inactivity, but you add all the physical attributes that Ward has, I say it's more 50-50 now because Canelo, or maybe 60-40 because Canelo's the active fighter. I'm just looking at how bigger of a fighter that Ward is and in how strong he is and how much he would use boxing skills where that Canelo has a chin. And I'm kind of curious what power Ward has left when he throws it that Canelo will walk right through like he did with Triple G. That's the question right there.
I have, if Ward fought Canelo now and he trained, say he trained the way, say he trains for Canelo the way he trained for Kovalev the first fight, I would give the favor to Ward because he already has a height and reach advantage, and I think he would attack Canelo in the body the way Canelo's never been attacked before in the body.
Right.
I think Canelo would be getting hit with some punches there that it's one thing to, when we talk about setting up, throwing punches at angles and stuff, we usually talk about that in the description more like a head punch, right? Where you throw your jab, where you're doing like an up jab, or you're doing an up cross. I mean, you can throw punches at certain angles, and you're usually going for the head because that's usually that's usually where you're going for your punches. Ward's the guy that's going to hit you at an angle in the body that you're not seeing coming, and he's attacking a point in your body that you're not expecting to get hit. Right. You don't go for a training camp like the way Kovalev did and expect to get hit in the underarms of your body. Right on your armpits and stuff. You're not training for that. You're not training to deal with blows there. So when you got hit with that by the 9th, 10th round, you weren't looking good. Like you fought, but you were definitely getting softened up really well. And I take my hats off to Ward for that strategy. And I think he would do something similar to that to Canelo. He would test him at the body. I think he'd keep him at arm's arm's length, and then tackle him with the body when he sat inside.
Yeah,
I think Ward would win that fight.
Now, would you buy the Ward Canelo fight?
Hell yeah, I would. Hell yeah, I would. Hell yeah, I would. That's
the one you buy.
That's the one I buy because you're gonna get a competitive fight. That is where if Ward had not retired again and decided to take a couple months off for an injury and maybe still campaigned at 175, you could imagine the fights he could have had. He could have fought against Pascal. He could have definitely fought against Adonis Stevenson. Somewhere out of nowhere would have came up and said, "Let's fight."
Oh man, I wish that fight would happen. And I haven't heard much from him. I hope he's doing better now.
I hope he's doing better.
Yeah.
Adonis, if you're hearing us, man, I hope you're doing better, my friend.
I mean, he had, like every boxer, you like him, and then there's certain boxers, like, oh, I wish he didn't say two things, but the way his last fight ended, you don't want to see no boxer go down like that.
Exactly. But everything
before brain injury
and everything. But everything before that last fight, Adonis was pissing me off because he ran from a lot of fighters.
Yeah, he did. And plus he couldn't fight outside of Canada too. That made the money situation really hurt. Because if he could have came to the States, that fight happens. The fact that because he used to be a pimp, I mean, literally, he had hoes. I mean, he had a stable. That's why he went to jail. I'm not making this up, people. Look it up.
Turn pimp.
Yeah, but he served time for pimping and prostitution, and because of that, he could not fight outside of Canada, Montreal, where he fought all the time. So if you're Andre Ward or any major, super middleweight or light heavyweight, you don't want to do that fight in Canada because you're going to his backyard, and of course the money is not going to be the same if you did the fight in the States or anywhere else. So I can understand where someone would want to go to Canada because you want that fight because he had the WBC belt at the time, but at the same time, though, if the money ain't right, it just didn't matter really.
Well, Pascal. They're both from Montreal. Pascal could fight in the States, but Stevens couldn't Well, the thing is, the fight didn't have to happen in the States. I mean, Pascal fought a bunch of times in Montreal. He fought Kovalev in Montreal. But before that, and they're both from Montreal, so they both could have had that fight long time ago in Canada.
Possibly. Oh, you talking about Pascal and Stevenson?
Oh yeah,
those two could have fought in Canada.
Oh yeah,
that.
That's what drove me crazy about Adonis Stevenson, was that he wasn't fighting anybody.
Right.
So to me,
he really milked that.
He milked that belt for what it was worth, but there was nothing there to milk anymore.
He didn't care.
He just had the belt and
he couldn't leave Canada, and he was like, I'm just gonna pimp these hoes and rock this WBC belt.
Exactly. So to me, Andre Ward, if he had kept competing at 175, I think he could have fought a Pascal. That would have been a great fight to watch. I think
that would have been a really good fight.
That'd be entertaining.
Pascal had years in his prime where he put on good fights. His fights with Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah.
He had I forgot who else.
The first fight against Kovalev, he was losing the first 4 rounds, that he made it a competitive fight the rest of the way. I was a fan of that
even
fight.
Though he got beat down, he had some good fights with Kovalev too. I think he fought Kovalev twice.
He fought him twice. The second fight, he didn't fight well because he had already fought I think it was Sullivan Barrera.
Yeah.
And he didn't look good in that fight either. That was a gimme, a freebie.
He's still fighting now though.
Yeah.
Pascal just won a secondary belt, I think a year plus ago. He's still in the mix.
Yeah, he's still in the mix because he's still young, still willing to fight, for his family, to provide and stuff like that. Though. So he's definitely a name in the mix right now at 175. But with that said, I mean, I like to see Ward get into the ring with Canelo. I like to see Ward get into the ring with Pascal, who was a tune-up. To me, at the end of the day,
here's the thing though. You keep bringing tune-up. When you get to a guy like Ward, there is no such thing as tune-ups at his age. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying, in boxing history and guys of that stature, there is no such thing as tune-ups.
I'm with you.
Unless the tune-up is paying $5 to $10 million.
And that's why I said Pascal is going to be.
The reason why I said tune-up like that, the last tune-up I seen like that was when Oscar De La Hoya fought Steve Forbes but he lost that fight, but he won.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was for the major pay-per-view before Hopkins.
Yeah.
For the middleweight fight. But I'm saying, like, guys of that stature, in his age,
was it 37, Forbes or Lemieux? I forget.
No, it was Forbes the first fight.
You sure?
Yeah, okay. Stevie Forbes, and Oscar lost that fight, but he won because that would have ruined the whole.
I think David Lemieux was the other fight, but I think he lost too.
And then there would have been no kidney punch. But there is Andre Ward he's always been about his money. Like, he sat out when he had his promoter dispute with Dan Goosen for like almost 2 years.
I remember
about his money. So I just pointed out, like, that is not even going a discussion even be brought up. He is not doing a tune-up fight. It's going straight to the money fight. So let's wrap this up here now. So if it was Anthony Joshua, I literally see him making 30 to 50 million. I literally see that kind of price tag. Eddie Hearn would pay it. ESPN would pay it up the wahoo. Canelo fight, it would be on pay-per-view. I can see a guarantee of 15 to 20 in the backside of the pay-per-view probably on that.
I think of the realistic matches, that's the one that's more realistic. That's realistically can be done with Canelo, and competitively probably the better watch.
Yeah,
as of right now,
the better watch, as far as like you're seeing the 2 men in the ring who are basically almost close to the same size in the same division weight. Like, you're in. There's
no gimmick about this. There definitely be no gimmick feel for it. It wouldn't even feel like a money grab.
But let's be honest though, ESPN behind an Andre Ward, Anthony Joshua fight, it would take about 1 day worth of programming to sell you on it. You'd be like, I know
when Fury beats Joshua. Now when Fury beats Joshua.
Well, if Fury does not beat Josh, there's a whole bunch of contingencies here. Do I think Fury wins? Hell yes. I'm just saying that in the event that if Fury did lose to Joshua, that's what I'm saying. There's always a possibility, because
he has to go off on the bender. I'm in the middle of the ring during the fight. That's the only way Fury loses that fight, to me.
It's boxing. We didn't know. It's not like he's fighting Buster Douglas, and Buster Douglas knocked out Tyson.
Sure.
Now, of course, Tyson had about 30 prostitutes and Bobby Brown kicking it in Tokyo, Japan the whole week, which didn't help. But I mean, anything can happen in boxing.
It was close enough to Bangkok to feel that way.
Yeah. So I mean, saying anything can happen. All it takes is 30 prostitutes in the hotel room for a week.
Well, as long as they're not having the fight in Tokyo and they're having the fight in the Middle East somewhere, I'm okay.
They could be in the Middle East, and you could have a whole bunch of concubines. You never know. Yeah, I went there.
You actually, I can't read. Well, you know what? It's B-roll. Go ahead. Have it. Have it.
We're going to close out on here. I wanted to talk about that because Andre Ward being out the game, and you didn't want to talk about it, but I was like, dude,
You got me worked up during pregame.
But I'm saying though, it's been little dribbles here for a long time. And one thing about boxing is when people drop little dribbles here, sometimes that builds to a puddle.
Yeah.
Now, will it happen? I am not sure. But boxing has a history when something like this happens. Just keep an eye and don't say that we didn't warn you.
So again, folks, if Ward Joshua, this little dribble started in 2017. So it's been 4 years.
2021 now.
I don't want. I honestly, those dribbles are very, very. Those are tears. Those are tears of somebody missing out on a big money grab of $50 million. And Ward's only got one person to blame: Anthony Joshua. He shouldn't have lost. So with that said, Canelo, more realistic. Please do that fight, Ward. I'm a fan. I'll watch. I'll be there.
Only in boxing, though. You can't have the Duke Blue Devils in college say we're going to play the Los Angeles Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Like if Mike Krzyzewski's like, we're gonna play the Clippers. We're gonna have this game go down in May. You don't have, or Louisville saying we're gonna play the Bulls.
Yeah.
Or Alabama. Nick Saban's like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take on Tom Brady and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Only in boxing where you can get one man in one class at a completely different size and then another man in a different size and find a way to make it work where they can knock each other out.
Ward, fight Canelo first. If you want to take a fight at cruiserweight, knock yourself out, or you want to go straight to Joshua, I'm fine. Just give me a fight first before you fight Joshua. Don't go straight there, man.
I'm gonna end this here with this. If Ward does fight, he's only doing one fight. It's not gonna be no tune-up fight. It's either gonna be Canelo. It's just gonna be either let's say if everything happens right, it's either gonna be Canelo or Joshua with his eyes set on Joshua first.
If you're gonna be that greedy, Ward, you might as well fight them both.
Hey, why not?
If you're gonna get greedy, fight both of them, but let it be Canelo first because that's the one the fans would rather see. That's the fight I would rather see.
Break it down. You will see the casual fan be like, yo, he's fighting someone 6'5", 250. I guarantee you, we just talk to people who don't follow boxing, they'll be more intrigued in that fight, though.
I think if you were watching, I would imagine even the casual boxing fan who doesn't watch boxing as much, but probably watches more MMA than that, understands weight classes, understands height differences, and understands a 6'1" guy at light heavyweight has no business fighting against a 6'5" guy at heavyweight.
But here's the thing, though, Jorge, you're gonna sell SOG. He's the son of God. Then you're gonna sell the fact that he has not lost a fight since he's been 14 years old. Then you're gonna add he's an Olympic gold. He's the only hold on. He's the only American Olympic gold medalist in the 2004 games, and we have not had an Olympic gold medalist since then. And then since then, he was undefeated through the pro ranks. He was the top man at 160. You're gonna see every single storyline. What I just said.
No, because he hasn't sold that son of God type persona. Some of that though. That's actually
that's sold. That is a real deal.
That's a real deal, but not.
That Christian community loves that man.
Hey,
that's a real deal.
I believe it. I believe to the Christian community, it's a real deal.
Yeah.
To the boxing fan, that's the casual boxing fan, son of who?
But here's the thing, though.
Son of what?
But the casual fan is not going to pay for this fight. It's the casual fan who loves it. It's going to be the extra dollars that gets in on it. See, that's what you're selling for. We watch the fight because we're boxing fans. We know they're advertising for the people who don't watch it all the time. Those Christian groups like, oh, the son of, I heard about him. And then the rat's like, he's going to fight this guy here on all the Under Armour commercials? Oh, I seen him comment on ESPN. That's who they're marketing, Jorge. You keep talking about you and me. I'm talking about Joe Smo next door who don't watch boxing.
Joe Smo's not going to watch. Joe Smo's going to take that money and go to the strip club and trickle off with it.
They may do both. Watch the fight at the strip club.
Damn right, because they're going to have the fight live.
That's right. See how I just beat you to it there.
So you've been there. The fight.
Strip clubs have TVs. And they play nothing but sports channels.
Damn right they do.
Hey, if you've been to a strip club, you know they ain't playing CNN at the strip plaza. They're not.
Just sucks.
You're not watching Fox News. You're not watching Tucker Carlson at the strip club. He will just ruin he will ruin it. You're
Don Lemon at the strip club.
You're not watching Rachel Maddow at the strip club.
Don Lemon at the strip club.
You're not watching Crystal Down at the strip club.
Gosh.
You're not watching Chris Cuomo at the strip club.
Okay, that's enough.
But you know what you are watching? ESPN.
Kind of hard if they're in your face and stuff like that, though. They jiggle them in your face, but kind of hard.
think we need to send this on now before this gets out of hand here.
It's getting close.
This will turn to an R-rated podcast, and this won't be the BNP podcast. This will be the
Bow.
All right, yo, we're gonna end this out here. For everybody checking this out here, depending on the platform you're at. If you're on Spotify, click on follow. If you're on YouTube, click on like, subscribe, and the notification bell. That way you get new episodes, because we dropped 2 episodes last week and we're dropping 2 episodes this week. New show, but we building here. So YouTube, Spotify, as well as the Zingo app, channel 250 on the Spanglish World. We're affiliated with them as well. And Jorge, what do you got?
Live_Dominoes. That's the Twitch TV channel that I'm on. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Catch us there.
Okay. Also, what I wanted to do here. Oh, I lost my thing here. Also on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, Jump Off Live. That's the other show podcast I'm on with my fellas JD, Johnny Dangerous, and Jeff. We do that every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Also, I also wanted to add here too some love. We mentioned this on the other podcast here, but I wanted to mention some love to KBFX Fox 58 in Bakersfield, as well as KFRE Fox 59 in Fresno. Hey, you guys played our podcast. We love y'all. You didn't have to do it, so we rock with y'all. Fox and Fresno and Bakersfield.
Thank you very much, Fox, for having us on. Appreciate everything you're doing for us there, and looking forward to hopefully having some more episodes of ours on there.
Let's give you 100, Fox. Why don't you put us on a few more of those affiliates? We like Bakersfield. We like Fresno. When we get y'all again, and why don't you add a few more? Let's make it both our wows here.
Modesto, Orange County.
Yeah.
San Diego County.
Let's go down to Southern Cal. We'll go to Sacramento. We'll go up to Northern County, and then we'll branch our way to, we'll see. Let's make this work. Give me a call.
San Francisco Bay Area. We're there.
Get at him and then get at me.
Yep.
Okay. On that note, Jorge, we're gonna get out of here, man. We went longer than we thought for this one here, but we had to do it.
Yep. I'm gonna give one shout out to Tom Brady, the GOAT. Congratulations, my friend.
Tom Brady did it again. So he the man.
He's the man.
That's football, but this is boxing. But hey, gotta give a shout out to
respect greatness when you see it.
Respect greatness. You know what I'm saying? He's been on my fantasy league team, and he did win me a fantasy championship about just how long he's been in the game, 14 years ago.
Yeah, he had his FU season after that 4-game suspension. I ended up getting in the 7th round 1 year. It took me to a title game.
Yeah. So on that note, we're gonna end this here for the BNP Boxing Now podcast. I am that dude named Dave, my man Jorge, and we're out of here, people, to the next episode. Take care.
Take care, folks.
Cheers.